a couple of years ago, I had on this wonderful man named Roland Griffiths, and Roland created the clinic at Johns Hopkins University testing like psychedelics, mushrooms and MDMA. I always screw up the letters, but the actual like shrooms that people are taking now for these trips, and they're doing it there in a controlled setting in a way to treat depression, to help cancer patients who are just like terminal, to feel better about what's next, on the other side. And it's really, they were having wonderful results. And then it was very sad because Roland himself got colon cancer and died. And I had him on when he knew that was going to happen. It was a very emotional interview. Anyway, my point in telling you this is he said they screen so carefully for anybody who wants to join the program for any history at any level of schizophrenia in your family. Because if you have it back 3 generations, just like one grandma, you have a much higher likelihood of having a psychotic break during the doctor-controlled segment from which you never return. That's the part that I never forgot. You break, you never come back. And you seem to be saying you've seen evidence of this with regular old pot too.
Yes. So here's the thing. The psychedelics, obviously, they're designed to produce a psychosis-like experience. Cannabis isn't exactly designed to do that, but in many people, and particularly with this higher strength, higher in THC, more potent cannabis that we were just talking about, it can do this. And here's who's vulnerable. If you have any sort of pre-existing psychiatric illness. If you have any psychiatric illness, certainly if you have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder in your family, if you use in your early teens, in your mid-teens, and if you use heavily, if you're in those categories and if they overlap, you are at surprisingly high risk, certainly to have intermittent psychotic episodes as a result of using cannabis. And again, psychosis is a break from reality. So it could be you're hearing voices shouting at you. It could be you're hallucinating and visualizing, stuff that's not there. That's more rare for cannabis than it is for the psychedelics, but it can happen. It could just be, and this is actually the most dangerous, both for the person and the people around him, that you're having these very, very negative thoughts of, my mother's not actually my mother anymore, or a robot has replaced her, or my friend is actually a covert police officer. Anything like that is extremely dangerous. So those thoughts are what THC use can produce in people. And if you ever have that happen to you, even once, you should never use again. But the problem is the industry, and this was part of their strategy to get cannabis legalized, promotes cannabis as medicine. So who are they selling it to a lot of times? They're selling to people with sleep disorders, or people with anxiety, or people with depression. The exact people who should not be using this stuff. My position on cannabis is if we want to legalize it, I'm not in favor of legalizing it, but let's legalize it like alcohol, where it is something that we're going to use recreationally to get high, to have a good time. It's not a very good social lubricant, but let's use it that way. Instead, the industry sells it as alcohol, as a medicine, and that encourages exactly the wrong people to use it. And some of those people will get psychotic, and if they continue to use, they have what epidemiologists call very high rate ratios. But what that means is your risk of becoming permanently psychotically ill, of developing schizophrenia, is really high.
Okay, so that leads me to Nick Reiner, which is the man we discussed right before you came on with our legal panel. Here he is in 2018 on the Dopey podcast, smoking weed. Listen here.
I said, I'm not doing dope.
So what are you doing?
You just asked me.
What are you doing?
Oh, well, I'm smoking a little weed, taking a little Adderall.
Okay.
But that's what everybody's doing.
So answer the question. You smoke weed to chill, basically, right?
Yeah, but I get out of it what anybody else gets out of doing any drug. It's like, why does anybody do any drug? But I'm just smoking weed to prevent myself from doing any other sort of hard thing right now.
Right. It's taking the spot. And
It's a preventative measure.
Very interesting that he's using it like an opioid addict might use Suboxone.
Yes.
Like, this is my gateway drug out of my opioid addiction.
I mean, I'm so glad, that clip should be played in every high school, in every junior high school in the country, right? Because you hear it all there. First of all, he's essentially saying, oh, weed, cannabis, CBD, it's not a drug for me. It's something I'm using to avoid other drugs. He also throws an Adderall in there, which, Adderall is not methamphetamine, it's amphetamine. It's a very powerful stimulant. So we have this guy who's a drug addict, who would say he's an addict, who would acknowledge that he can't use opioids and that methamphetamine has been a big problem for him in the past too, is telling this group casually, oh, I use amphetamines, I use cannabis, and somehow that's okay. I've exempted those in my own mind, and they're actually good for me. This is denial on an individual level, and it's the same denial that we have on a societal level. And we really have to, whether it's you, whether it's me, but parents have to, and schools have to, and the president, obviously, again, this issue is not top of mind for him. We have to, as a society, say this is not a good way to do business. This is not good for our kids. It's not good for society. It's not good for anyone. And we're not going to allow ourselves to make these excuses about drug use.
It's not harmless.
It's not harmless. No, it's the opposite of harmless. And if you want to use it, don't pretend that it's for your ADHD or for your anxiety. Just say, I like getting high. It's fun to be high, and I'm going to take a risk with it. I mean, again, that's a bad idea, but it's better than where we are right now.
Yeah. The other case, and we could be out here all day talking about the cases of violence where we later found out that the young man, in virtually all cases, was a huge fan of cannabis. But the one that comes to mind is the shooter in the Minneapolis school shooting that happened just this past year, where he shot the children in the church connected to the school. And then his videos, this is a man pretending to be a woman. He declared himself to be trans, but it also came out how addicted he was to marijuana. And he posted these videos of himself as a demon. And you can see the smoke. We have it here. This is him filming his own manifesto. And you can see, for the listening audience, him blowing smoke. And he's talking about how he's smoking pot while he's, doing some of these videos, that there were lots of them. Yep. And then we saw the demonic stuff.
He's
you were jumping up and down on this one.
Ice shooter, that didn't get as much attention because it was a few days after the Minneapolis case. That guy was a heavy pot user. A lot of people don't know that Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, was a heavy cannabis user. I think he was also using Adderall. The cannabis-Adderall combination is a nasty combination because both those drugs can produce psychosis individually, and they're pretty additive. Because pot, the one good thing about it from a violence point of view is it tends to knock people down a little bit. It makes you sleepy and lazy. But of course, amphetamines have the opposite effect. We'll see with Reiner, but it seems clear from what has come out with him that his lawyer, who's now left the case because I think I think the family does not want to pay millions of dollars for a defense lawyer when they're pretty angry, obviously, at Nick Reiner and what he allegedly did. But the lawyer appeared to be setting up a mental illness defense. And so One of the things that I think actually got us talking about this, you and me, was this idea that defense, then the prosecution has to openly say, hey, this is not organic mental illness. This is not organic schizophrenia. This was caused by the drugs Nick Reiner was taking. And if the trial does go that way, I think a lot of Americans for the first time are going to be presented with the cannabis psychosis violence connection for the first time. They're really going to see it. But yes, there are many of these cases. And unfortunately, a lot of them are very hard to read about because, again, often the violence is it's against somebody's parents, or worse. The worst of all is when it's against children, and so I think our tendency as a society is just to turn away and say, well, this person was just crazy, or this person was just evil, and not to realize that we have opened up, sort of the gates on this by encouraging cannabis use by vulnerable people.
A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? They use an educational approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, you just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.